Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My guest, all the way from Georgia, USA, is Kathy Knopp. We're going to be talking about her art today and how art saved her life. She's had rather a tumultuous life, definitely not one that's been in her favor. She always considered herself an artist ever since she was a child. She began painting at the age of 10. Her father always encouraged her art ambition. It was a rough beginning for her, however, because she was put into an orphanage and adopted by orphanage, and her adopted father came along and took her, and she had 4 brothers and sisters at that time, but it wasn't necessarily a family. We're going to be talking a little bit about the ups and downs and the struggles and the strifes that we all go through in life, but her journey, but how art was always that consistent, how art was always her voice. It's always been her expression of her heart and her soul. And today she does some beautiful art, which we're going to be talking about. What motivates her? Where does she get her vision from? What from her childhood really has propelled her forward into always believing in her art, and whom, when she paints, who is she channeling when she paints and does her art, and where does she go? Because I really do believe that artists, like musicians, like playwrights, like authors, they go somewhere when they are busy doing their artistic endeavors. And that all of those beautiful endeavors is something that we then benefit from. So if you're watching the video, you can see she's got some art around her. There is some art on her show page. And we can also talk about her wonderful postcards that she has, the note cards that she has. And, you know, art is very important to me. I'm a very visual person. Right opposite here, my desk is, I have very, very colorful flowers. And if I'm feeling down or I'm feeling like I need a little boost, I look at the color. Then color, rejuvenates me. And it's just the way it dances. And I often refer to, as in life, in our rebirth and our rediscovery and our self-discovery, of having that paintbrush and a blank canvas in which to paint our life from. So we literally have an artist here that has done that. So welcome to the show, Kathy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate very much your having me, Sarah. It's a wonderful opportunity to share my art. And you're right, it's been a lot of brick walls as we, go into life. Nobody promised us a rose garden. And
If it had, you probably wouldn't be so expressive with the art. That's the
that's
thing, right?
right. Well, I'm not one of these dark artists that paints the dark. I just paint what is from my heart. And I learned very young just to put myself into my art. In fact, I went through books and many books, and I studied the masters. The Impressionists impressed me the most because I lived in Toledo, Ohio, which has a very nice museum. And I would go, and as I was able to, just study them and copy. You could copy all these techniques, but of course you couldn't sell a copy. You're not supposed to do that. So I would give them away to people that helped me. I was pretty much on my own at a very young age, and it was just nice. If they did something nice for me, I figured, well, I couldn't pay them, but I could give them a piece
Yes.
of art.
That
And
is paying them. It's
well,
paying them. It's
and
just
they
not,
loved it.
it's not money. I mean, there's the thing about payment. It doesn't always have to be the green stuff, right? When
Well,
you're giving something
exactly.
of yourself, sometimes that's a bigger payment than any kind of cash wallet would be.
Well, it helped me because it took a long time to get from unmuddy, because when you're first learning how to do
Mm.
this, it gets very muddy and you go, oh, you want to give up. But I just kept on plugging away, and then as I grew older, I took art lessons and things like that. And of course, I worked
Mm-hmm.
hard. I worked for a dentist at first. And in fact, I'll back that up. I was very good at it. And he taught me how to a dental assist. But then there's also a technology in that where you can make gold castings. And I learned how to do that. And you brought up to mind something that I almost forgot about. Yeah, he taught me how to do that. And dentists they can be nice people, but they can be very hard to work with because they're very particular. Well, he had me make a casting for a patient, and I mean, I had to do it twice, and I'm not getting paid for this. Okay, it was like something I'm learning. I'm learning how to do this. It's like making jewelry.
Right.
And anyways, lo and behold, he actually used it. And but the thing is, the thought was maybe I'll help her go to dental school, dental technology school. Well, that didn't happen. My father passed away, then I had to go on, and anyways, long story short, I basically just kept my art going, and I worked whatever I could do. I worked in restaurants, I worked in different things. Well, I did meet a man that we fell in love so much at that point that it was all I had. I didn't have the mentors to tell me which guy to find that was perfect for me.
Yes, the trial and
He wasn't
tribulation.
perfect. Yes, yeah. Well, there's a tribulation because he was not very good at helping me with my art. But the thing is, we got married. We then moved to Chicago, which was a pretty big town, but I got so much experience working there with different jobs. I would take a job, and on the side, I was always doing my art. Then I would take another job. How can we have so many jobs? Well, if I could make $2,000 more a year, I went to that next level. And then I kept going to that next level. Well, I got a lot of I have a tremendous amount of different experiences that led me to my sales job in lighting. And that's where I flourished. And on the side, like I say, I always did my art. I always sold my art, or kept it up in whatever capacity I could. Because while you're working, it's very hard to do that.
Yes, yes.
And then, well, lo and behold, he wasn't the man for me, so we got divorced, and that was a very difficult time in my life. He tried to take my house away from me. Well, I fought, and I kept my house. And
Good for you.
yes, and I had to sell furniture and art, whatever I could.
Yes.
To make it, and I did fine. I mean, but it wasn't easy. It's like, okay, you cry a lot, and you just keep on trucking, and you get there. But the art was, I mean, I even traded putting in a gutter for a painting because I needed a gutter on my.
But the good old barter system, which is the first form of e-commerce, right? And
Right.
it works. And but
It
I want to
worked.
touch on some things here. The resilience. We don't know what resilience we have in ourselves. And yeah, you were put in an orphanage when you were young, and the resilience they had to have there. And there was something, I think it was Gabor Mate said, or Trevor Noah, one of them, because I was listening to both of the shows, where they said, the experience makes us who we are, but it doesn't mean we have to enjoy the experience,
This is
right?
true.
It's what we become because of that experience we enjoy, not necessarily the journey of the experience at the
Right.
time.
You can only laugh about it later. At the time, you
Exactly.
cannot. You cannot.
Exactly. And it's like it seems to be that like the stronger you are, the more tested you are.
Mm.
Well, you could cope with that. Let's see what else we can throw at you.
Oh,
And so,
yes.
but you seem to be a person that no matter what's thrown at you, I can see, proverbially pulling up your sleeves and going, okay, I don't want this, but I can handle it.
Well, that's you either do that, or you become there are times when I became very depressed. Okay.
Right.
It was a very difficult time. I was very fortunate to find someone after my divorce that worked with me and didn't charge me for psychological help for a little while. And like I say, that was a very big deal because there's points in your life where you need help, and you have to
Yes.
you have to you have to go and get it. And so those are points that I don't want to dwell on, but it got me, like you say, where I am. And I'm grateful for these people that came into my life and saw a need for someone that knew they were going to give them back something, even if it was just a painting,
Yeah.
to help them. And no, it's definitely resilience. It's amazing what children do have to go through, and they're very resilient. People that have them, I don't have children, they probably say, well, what the heck does she know? She doesn't know anything. She
Yeah.
never had a kid. But I knew what I was treated like, and I would not want to treat my child like that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, I had Kimberly Battler on, who was also put in a orphanage, but her parents were there. They were just going through something, breakdowns or something, and she was put in the orphanage. And, they just, um, you would think that in an orphanage, the kids would be there with each other, to support each other. But it seems to be more like, fighting for the scraps of fighting each other. And I think that that is the abandonment issue, that it lies
Yeah.
within each child, and they don't know how to belong, and they don't trust the belonging. And I think that's something that kind of perhaps carries through, and maybe with your first husband, looking to belong, looking for that partner in life. And hindsight is always 2020. And when we look back and go, what was I thinking? But
Well, and I had no role models to
yeah,
show me how to choose.
you're right.
Chose, but it was for a little while. It was all right. It was fine. But it was just really hard because he had the same type mother situation that I was living with that wasn't very kind, and that's all I knew. But I
Right.
know a lot better now, and I have a very nice husband now who is very encouraging, and very much an artist like I am, but a totally different artist. But it's like it just took all those years to shift through and get it correct. You can't give up. You've got to learn from if you don't learn from your experiences, you'll never manage. And that's where I think people have a problem.
Right. As you said, you're not a dark artist. For you, it's about the color, it's about the life, it's about the movement. And I think that is, where you put your heart and soul in. And, when you met your now husband, it is through the art you made the connection. Because
Well,
when you look at the art, you know whether that is somebody is painting by numbers or somebody's painting through love, right?
well, the interesting thing is when I was in lighting, one of the things my dad had was a boat. We had a boat on Lake Erie, so I love boating. Well, the thing is, I've not only art, but being on the water was a very big thing to me. Well, I missed that, and when I met my ex, we had a boat. But then when we got divorced, I didn't have that anymore. And then after that, when I was single for 20 years before I got married the second time. I got my own sailboat.
Good for you.
And I had a sailboat for 13 years of my own, a 22-foot Catalina. Well, that's how I met him. He also sailed. So, but I didn't know he was an artist too. So at the time we met through something we loved,
Right.
and the art is something that just evolved through his life. And I think that connection was there because we both had an interest, and we both knew that we were bound by the sailing because he was in the Navy and all that. But I learned that he had uh, dyslexic problems, and art helped him. So
Yes.
we both have grown from that.
And then that, but again, it's that, I always say if you're looking for love, you've got to be the love.
True.
And when people see you in the light of where something you love doing, something you immersed into a place where you feel safe in that love. You felt safe being on the boat and to express your love there as you do with your art. And that's what people pick up on. And that's where we make the right connections, is when we can feel that love is there. What we are as human beings, especially when we have gone through some tumultuous times, we start to distrust the love, and we distrust other people. And is it for real? And I think if we can get out of our heads and let the heart and the soul and the spirit connect, you'll know what level that love is on and how real it really is.
Well, this is true. And I think it took me a long time to love myself because I felt a lot of blame for what I was going through, and it just took a long time. So having the boat, having getting a house, keeping my house, doing the things that I was doing, I had to love myself
Yeah.
enough to love somebody else. And I think my new husband came along at the right time, and we both have helped each other. We both
Yes.
have learned a lot from life, because a lot of things were thrown at him.
Yeah. So you complemented each other. You didn't have to complete each other.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
we're both very independent and ferociously fight about art.
But that's also very stimulating because it's like, it isn't you're wrong and I'm right. It's just the expression and the perception of how you
Right.
see things. And it could be exciting, can't it?
Yes, yes. He does help me a lot, and I help him. So he's got a totally different perspective
Mm.
on it, but he helps me in so many ways. And like I say, he helps me with the photography end because he's a good photographer, and that adds to my being able to do better pictures, just to get the right
Mm.
aspects and the right, um, I can't think of all the words I need to say, but the right uh, thirds that you have to put the painting in, and the
Hmm.
right composition. The
Right.
composition is very important in the painting.
Hmm. Do you paint live or do you paint from pictures, from photographs?
Well, I do both. The thing is, I do have a daylight studio, and I only paint during the day because the light that comes in is the true light. And
Hmm.
I don't like to paint at night. I do have somewhat of a bad cornea in one eye, but it's all right. I don't let it stop me.
Right.
Just because we have some health issues doesn't mean you should stop.
Exactly.
You
Yes,
know,
I'm riddled with them. And it's just like, hey, you know what you can't do, but you don't harp on what you can't do. You focus on what you can do.
right? I don't like somebody to say you can't do this, because then
Hmm.
I'll challenge myself and say, "What do you mean I can't do this?" That's the
Right.
worst thing to tell me.
Yes, exactly.
My
I live
husband
with,
will say, he says, "You can't do that's too complicated a picture." Says, you wait."
yes, I live with a 90-year-old and she's stubborn as a mule completely, still drives and then, cooks for herself and everything else and probably stronger than I am. And she's 5 foot dot, right? Everybody treats her as the sweet little old lady. Little do they know that she could probably throw them over her shoulder because she's a black belt. But you tell her she can't do something and the chin goes in and she's going to do it. But I think that obviously to a point is absolutely wonderful and other times not so good, but I think that's the
Exactly.
thing, is that challenge, isn't it, is that I always say we have no idea what we can do and what we can't do until we try, right? And
Exactly.
when you try it and it doesn't work out, okay, this isn't for me, but I gave it a try.
Right. And if you don't try, you have to go past your limits
Yeah.
in order to know where you're going. And if you don't press yourself ahead of that, you'll never find out. And
Right.
and the thing is, I don't appreciate some of the things I've had to go through, but like you say, it's helped me get to
Mm.
where I am. And
Well, I
it's
mean, that's how you kept the house. That's how you were able to buy a boat. You knew what was important to you. You knew what you'd already given up in life, and be damned if you were going to give up anything more.
No, it was too painful to say, well, somebody took this away from you and you're going to go through this again. No,
Yes.
you have to fight, and you have to be very proactive. Unfortunately, it's something I learned very early in life. I don't know how in the heck I was so proactive when nobody else in the family that I thought I knew wasn't. So it's just somehow I have this gift in me that my father gave me, which he gave me life, he gave me whatever, but he wasn't there for me. So
Mm.
um, not necessarily in the way that most fathers have, all these people that have fathers and, oh, my dad did this, he took me to the dance. And well, I didn't have that, but my art is what, like you say, saved me, because I had something to focus on. I could go to my art and just forget about the rest of the world and get involved in it and be
Yeah.
inspired by these great masters that I, wanted to, like Monet.
Yeah.
He's my inspiration. He's my
Hmm. What is it about Monet that is your inspiration? Is it the composition? Is it the color? Is it the soft brush? What is it?
Well, I think just his impressionism, it's kind of vague, but yet it's sometimes
Mm.
it's not so realistic, Like Renoir is, he does a lot of people. I don't do a lot of people. I just never got into that. I tried it when I was younger. But he just, Manet, Monet, all those impressionists, he just, I studied him. He used to paint in a suit. Now, how in the heck can you paint in a suit? But he'd go in his garden and paint in a suit for hours. He was just that type of man, very particular, and he loved colors. I just enjoyed his. You want to be somewhat realistic, but you don't want to. It's kind of like life. A lot of
Mm.
people don't know how, they don't want to accept the reality of life. But yet when I paint, I want to have some reality there, but I like it to be a little vague, because sometimes we don't always want to look
Yeah.
at it as
Yeah.
the perfect thing.
Do you paint like where you would like to be? Or I'd like to
Yes,
be in this painting. I'd like to be on that boat. I would like to be
right,
smell
right. Well,
these flowers.
I paint wherever we've been able to go,
Mm,
and whatever inspires me. Like, if we have an RV, so we do, when we have traveled, we hadn't because of COVID.
right.
What I'll do is I'll do a sketch of something, and then my husband will take a picture, and I may not be able to paint it then, but I bring it back,
Yeah.
and then just those visions that are in my
Mm,
head of that, and the smells of that day help me to paint what I remember. So it's,
yeah.
it's sometimes I
And
do.
that's where again thought transfers, because the joy that it brought you in the moment, you are translating and transferring onto the canvas. So that joy then can reflect off that canvas for anybody who's seeing it.
Well, that's what I hope. And then, like, I have done, a lot of artists do plein air, and I have gone out with them and sketched, but I don't like to take all those oils with me. It's just, I do oils, so it's a
Mm,
little more
yeah,
cumbersome, and that's fine. I'm real, let's put it this way, I'm very frugal, so I hate to waste my oils,
right.
because they're out there and they dry so quickly.
Yes.
And then you've got these tubes of paint you've spent a lot of money for, and then you have to throw them out. I don't do that. I'm
Right.
just very, very frugal.
But sensible. I'm going to call it sensible, not frugal, sensible, right? That there's a lovely word which Trevor Noah was saying the other day about familiar. When we talk about family, or we talk about familiar places, and when we're in familiar places around familiar people, we feel at home. I can do my podcasts anywhere, but I prefer to be in my own environment. And so, yes, if I have to, I'm traveling or anything else, I can do it, no problem. But there's something about your setting,
It's
right?
true.
Of everything being where you want it to be. The chair is familiar, the arena is familiar, and so therefore, I think it kind of becomes that open canvas, ready for the picture.
True.
And I think so. We like to go places and do those things that mean something to us from a familiar place.
Well, it makes sense. I agree with that. And I think you're probably right. That's probably why I like to just sketch and then take the pictures. And sometimes I'll take the picture because he does a weird picture sometimes. I mean, he'll do some chapel at the ceiling, and I'm like, I can't paint that. You know, I'll take the two or three that I need and then make my composition from that. So we both, like I say, we work together on that. But you're right, the familiarity of being at home
Mhm.
and in my spot, and then I have the daylight and the colors. And then what I do to save my oils is put them in the fridge, so
Yeah.
I can make them last a little longer. I'm just, like I say, I'm not one to do mass art, like, galleries want you to do 10 paintings at a time. I don't do it
Mhm.
that way.
Mhm.
But I'm in 3 venues right now, which has taken a long time to get in those venues.
Right. Let's
Uh,
talk about one of them, which is the painting that you did for a hospital.
yes, yes.
Tell us
Well,
about that one, because it's a beautiful painting and it's a very long, wide one, so it obviously consumes a great deal of the wall. Beautiful tree of kind of hope and sunlight coming through it, and a little stream, and very peaceful, I imagine, for people who are either walking by or sitting near.
well, it was quite an honor. That one was very interesting. I had a framer who had this big 8.5 foot frame with a beautiful uh piece that was had a painting taken out of it, and she was going to throw it out. And I said, no, you're not. You're not going to throw that out. It was a gorgeous. She didn't know what to do with an eight and a
Right.
half frame, and I didn't either. But I said, I'm going to figure out. I have a vision for this. I don't know what it is yet, but I have a vision for this. Well, it took a while because between me and a girlfriend that we were in the process of moving from different houses to another house, we had to store it somewhere. So she stored it for a while, and then I stored it for a while. And then what we did, it was interesting. I got a couple of my artist friends together. I said, look, I've got to find a place for this painting, and I don't want to draw on it until we figure it out. Well, being I was in lighting, I knew a lot of designers, a lot of people, but it'd been a while, so I lost those contacts. And I can't tell you how many people I asked, would you like this big painting somewhere in an office or something like that? And I was just running against a dead end. Well, what I did is, being that let me back up. I had brain surgery some 23 years ago, and it was a non-cancerous tumor, water on the brain, which I mean, my husband had taken me to the emergency room on Christmas Eve. I had headaches. I was dragging my leg. I was 3 days from being dead. Okay.
Wow.
And the thing is, it took a long time. I had this brain surgery, and it took a long time to heal. And I was never able to thank the responders and the nurses that helped me through my recovery period. And everybody said, well, you should do something for them. You should. Well, it took a long time. I wasn't able. We moved.
Yes.
We just had a lot of things in between. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to contact the hospital, find out who can help me with this. So I contacted the vice president of the hospital I was in. She gave me the director of control. The director of control, I said, would you like a painting? She said, well, that would be great, but I got to find a place for it, and we have to get approval. And so, I'll try to make the story a little shorter. And the thing was, I found a restaurant that wanted it, but my girlfriend said, no, it's just going to be sitting there. They're not going to appreciate it. It's going to get full of grease, and it's a free painting, so I don't want to just paint anything free. It'd be nice to do something free all the time, but it's kind of like we all do things free.
Yes. People don't realize things cost money, and so you
Things
can't
cost
keep doing
money.
away things free. Yes.
But anyways, the hospital was very good about, she found a spot for it. She says, I'd like it to be in the emergency room, which is where they do concierge. And she found a space for it, but then they had to approve the picture. Well, to find something on that particular size is not easy. So I went through, so you can contact photographers and get their permission to use a picture. And I found this one wonderful artist who is in England, believe it or not. And his name is Simon Wilkes. Anyways, he had the most gorgeous picture of this thing in Beverly Brook, where the trees and all that. It was because they wanted something with trees, and they wanted something very serene. And so that's what we decided upon. And it was I had to go through a board. It had to go through protocols. I mean, this was a year and a half of protocol.
Before you even
And
start painting.
well, and it was through COVID, which in a way
Yes.
worked out for me, because what I did is I got a Zoom account, and I talked with my artist friends, so we didn't have to go back and forth to each other. And we worked on how we were going to do this. We did sketches, and and I said, well, the best way to do this is for me to do an acrylic underpainting, just to give me the baseline, because I'm going to do the oil on the top, which you can do. You don't do acrylic over oil, you do it under.
Ah, okay.
And so they
Why is
basically,
that, by the way?
pardon?
Why is that?
Well, because if there's certain things, it can become a total mess if you do acrylic on top of oil. It'll totally ruin it. But oil can adhere with oil or linseed oil or a medium. Once it's dry, it'll work perfectly over acrylic, but you have to be careful how you do it. This was just a little basil. This wasn't a lot. It was just enough to give me some help, because that's a pretty big painting, and I wanted it to be successful. So it is what you learn when you go through all the processes. See, I've done pastels, I've done watercolor, I've done all these different mediums. Well, oil is what I decided I really my medium was. I don't do watercolor. But acrylic was, and I tried acrylic. I wasn't happy with it because it didn't give me the vividness that
Mm.
oils does. Oils has such a beautiful, there's
Definition.
so many, you have to know
Mm.
how to mix it. It's
Yeah.
very, it's something you learn. It's like, it's taken me 40 years and I still don't know everything.
More to discover, more to discover.
Right, it's you keep learning. But
Mm,
anyways, it was a long process, and then finally we got together at my other friend's house and just did she had plenty of acrylics and she's a very good acrylic painter. And I said, well, let's just do a baseline. And I can change it. That's one thing about oils. You can work with that and then change the perspective a little bit if it isn't perfect. So I had to work on it for a good month after that to do the oils over it. And then we presented it to the hospital. They had a nice unveiling for me, and I negotiated with them to keep it for 2 years.
mm,
Because my husband suggested, he said, well, you know what, it'll sit there and you don't know what they're going to do with it.
mm.
And so I'm supposed to get it back in 2 years, and I have a friend that wants to buy it.
Ah,
So
wonderful. There you go. Right.
So hopefully, and unless the hospital does something to say something different, I'd love for them to keep it, but it's what they're very happy with it as far as I know.
You're right. Yes,
And
and when you look at the picture, it is serene. I think that there's something about trees, isn't there? And something about that lighting that reflects behind trees. And there's something about water. I mean, water is a conduit. So anytime you're near water, it is a conduit of connection. The trees speak to you. They really do. They have a direct link to your psyche, and they have a wonderful way of calming you and soothing you and protecting you. And then when you get that ray of light coming through, it is that reflection of that conduitness, that reflection of the wisdom from the trees. And there's just something about it that's so peaceful and allows you to be present with self. That, the clarity of what you're needing to have in your turmoil is found in those serene moments.
well, I think that's why they liked it. And then my husband named it In the Land of Hope. So
Lovely. Yes.
it was, and they were very thrilled with it, and the doctors seem to love it, and the patients love it. It's for the patients because they're going through so much trauma
Yeah.
that this room is just a small room where they get to consult and make some pretty major decisions. So
Hmm.
I'm honored that it's there. I'm just
Yeah.
totally honored.
Yeah. Not in some hallway that everybody's going to go past, something where they can sit and
Yeah.
reflect. Yes.
And it's
Uh,
it's just it's just like I say, and believe me, hospitals don't just take any art. They're very
yeah.
picky.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they have to be. You need to have something that really is calming, because as you said, people aren't in hospital to have fun.
No,
There's,
no one's
there,
there.
there's always some, either life-threatening or life-changing or just unpleasant, about being there. And it's, even giving birth can be tumultuous. As with my poor daughter, breaking the femur of the baby as the
Oh
C-section.
my
So,
goodness.
so something
Yeah.
that should be a joyous moment ended up being, rather, tumultuous there. He's okay now, thank goodness. But,
Well, thank
it's,
you.
we need those calming things. And I actually remember watching a documentary years ago of birthing rooms, and this painter was painting so many layers of colors to get the right color in the birthing room that would be, psychologically calming on the
Yeah.
mother. And I thought, well, you don't just slap that color on. He had multiple layers of colors to bring out the right color, which I
Yeah.
found quite fascinating. So you don't just go, oh, it's blue here and it's pink there, is there? You kind of have different things underlaying so that the color can really jump out more.
Well, and like I say, we'll see where it goes. I just know they have it for another year and a half. So
Right.
and we'll just see what happens. I was it's just an honor because I really wanted something that was going to make me feel like an artist too, because it's hard. Art is not something that has been easy, but it's something I love, so I continue to do it. And you still continue to need something that says, okay, this is telling me to continue. You still have to have that something that tells you that to keep you
Yeah.
going.
When you had your brain surgery afterwards, how hard was it to get back to your art, or was it your art that became the healing?
Well, I think what was interesting is that my neurosurgeon, I was so grateful. I painted him a painting a month after my surgery. Do you know he still has it in his office
Oh, wow.
today?
Great. Great. Well, obviously it had to have an impact on him.
Well, and I did him another one because he's one of these, he's so brilliant that, everybody thinks, well, you need that fuzzy person that is just wonderful and kind. Well, guess what? This man is a genius. He saved my life. He's
Hmm.
not got the best bedside manner, but I
Right.
think if anything, this really helped him to feel like somebody really appreciated what
Yes.
I had done for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big point, isn't it? Because you have that experience and then you walk away and you probably never see that doctor again, and they don't know the impact, that they've had they surgically removed or surgically repaired. You've gone on about your life now, and they really don't know anything about you after that. And I think that kind of appreciation of I'm here now, thank you. 6 months on, a year on, I'm here
No,
now.
it's
Thank you for my
it's
life. I think it means something.
Well, it definitely does. I have actually given him other people that he can help, even though if it's not, he works on brain and back. And I've sent him people that have had issues that, he can turn them away and say, I can't help you. He's not going
Yeah,
to do the surgery just to do the surgery.
right.
And I think when you find that, I think that's what I try to do with anyone that I network or do anything. It's like, if you can help this other person, I try to have them meet up with that other person. Just because you do art doesn't mean you can't help in some other way also. Yeah,
Exactly. I mean, it's not about just a pretty picture, right?
right.
Art is used everywhere in the world. It's used as art therapy. For
It is,
anybody going through post-traumatic stress, anybody going through recovery of the brain, anybody that's needing to calm their psyche or just express themselves. It's a language all of its own, isn't it?
it's like art is necessary.
Yeah.
it,
Yes.
it is it is necessary, and people, we have all this digital art and people can get on their phones and make and change their faces or do something, but they don't realize I do this pixel by pixel. It's
Yes.
not something that is that
Yes.
easy.
Yes. And actually, even, the compilation of what they're doing, there had to be somebody that did it in the background for the AI to extract and put together in that different format. So,
Somebody
you
had
know,
to do
it's not just pulled out of thin air. There's always a baseline for anything, right? There's always that
it.
foundation of which it comes from. Um, so art, obviously, I mean, it is your expression. It is very much your healing power, but also your power. It's your voice, it's your power, and it's something that in your own empowerment, it empowers others.
Well, thank you. That's very sweet of you to say. No, I hope it does. And the paintings that I have sold to people that love my art, they seem to be thrilled, and it gives me, they're like my children. I don't have
Yes, yes.
children. So
You're
they're
giving your
I'm like,
children away.
I
I don't know
know.
how you do that because I
Well,
would
it's
find it
hard.
hard to do. I really would.
I know. I try to vet the people because it's like I want them to have this painting, but I hope that they are really going to appreciate it.
Yes, exactly. Obviously you're a very generous person and love to give. And yes, it's, we don't want to see a piece of art in some cupboard somewhere or locked away. We want it to be seen because the beauty of art, as with music, as with a novel or a movie, it's all open to different interpretation. And I think it's wonderful when you could get a few people around a piece of art. What does it mean to each of you? And then to see and hear how it affects everybody, because it's always going to be different. It's no one size fits all. And I think that's kind of where the joy comes out, is what does that piece of painting do for you? Where do you go? How do you feel? And you can look at a picture again, maybe you haven't paid attention to it for a while, and you look at it again and suddenly it's saying something else to you.
No, this is true. Even when I paint, I have to get away from it and then come back to it,
Yeah.
and then I may change something because I have a different feeling
Mm.
about it while I'm painting it. And it's the same way when I sold lighting, and that was my best job because I really wanted to uh, study in Paris. Of course, we all have dreams. That didn't work. But it's that's like, oh, come on, let's just go to Paris and study.
Let's be the 1920s and 30s again. Yes.
Yes, yes. But anyways, but what it did is I sold lighting. So I worked with architects and builders and designers, and I learned how
Mm,
to light pictures of people's paintings, and I learned how to design lighting for homes. And so it still kept me in the arts, but in the essence, I learned more about the light and the color. Light and color are so important together. And that's the one thing I could say. I at least I was getting paid for that
yes.
education. I didn't have to get in debt to go to school, which would have been the choice that most of us would like to have. But I became one of their top salespeople. And so like I say, I learned a lot. And so I use art kind of in a business aspect too, because
Yeah.
you still have to do that, but it's hard when it's your own personal art. It's
Yes,
very hard for
exactly.
people. It's
I
very
mean,
hard.
having an artist sell lighting, I think is, it's you're already seeing things from the artistic point of view. So it's, that it's not just somebody, oh, we just put a light here and a light there. No, it's no, shift it over a little bit, have it go this way, move, and then it reflects this and it reflects that, and it's that artist's eye. I had an author, artist, and musician on the other day, and she had created a song called The Shape of Time. And when you listen to it, you know it's coming from an artist's point of view because you can hear it in the song of the way she's looking at time from that visionary artist point of view, which I love. So, of course, anything you do, you are the artist first. So, anything you're going to do, you're going to bring the artist eye to. And that is a benefit to anyone who is looking for something that really, where they want to see that reflection of something be at its best.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. No, it's true. And it's hard because a lot of people can't visualize
Yes,
anything in a room. And if they look at a piece of art, if they don't appreciate it, you kind of have to teach them a little bit about why it's important. And and then they'll get it. And some don't. Some people may never get it, but
right.
it's just those that love art that understand it do. And
Yes.
that's what I try to cater to, is those people. And it's hard, but like I say, it's okay. I'm here. I'm
Exactly.
breathing.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing it primarily for you, and you just want other people to be able to share it, which is really, really important. I remember my house virtually burnt down. I had to be rebuilt, and I had all this color put in, and the person who was in charge of the overall restoration kind of made a comment to someone, God, there's all this color on the walls, you know, um, and made some sort of comment. And then he came back when all the furniture was in. And he goes, oh, I've only ever used white. I didn't, when I looked at the color before, he said to me, I thought it was, ugh. And then now coming in and seeing it with the pictures on the wall and with the furniture and the way the lighting comes through, I've never seen color used in this way because color is important to me. Don't give me a white room. I feel like coming to take
Right.
me away. I like color around me. And for me, I believe that, when you talk about a blue room or a green room, or that you go to where the color is needed, because color, like your chakras,
Mhm.
when you are craving certain color foods, is that particular chakra needs more boosting, needs more attention. And I think if you're drawn to certain colors in a painting, it feeds your chakras, which is feeding your spirit and your heart and your soul. And so art isn't just a pretty picture, it does so
Yeah.
much for us.
Well, you're absolutely right. And you brought me back to Monet, and being that I was very blessed to be able to go to Giverny and see his house. He has a room that's yellow and it is absolutely beautiful, but it's not everybody's color.
All
But
right.
that's the thing. That's probably where he got part of his inspiration. This
Mm.
beautiful room where he could eat breakfast and then go out to his garden. And he had this huge garden. I don't know how he did both, because see, I do yard work and I
Uh-huh.
don't garden like that, but it's part of nature. It's part of your art, and you use the light and the color together, and that's what. So I guess maybe that's why I was drawn to him. His
Mhm.
his his reference to light and color, And I like Georgia O'Keeffe. I like Van Gogh. I like the other masters also. But it's just, he's just my baseline. He's my base.
Yes. I remember at school doing an art picture that, the teacher said, um, I want you to do a circus theme and I don't care how you do it. So I did it in wax crayon and I had an elephant walking a tightrope. I had everybody doing what they shouldn't be doing, right? And so I actually won first prize that day because I didn't do anything conventional, right?
Well, that's
And I mean,
wonderful.
an elephant isn't going to walk a tightrope. But we're the ones that always insist that people know their place. And I'm not one of those people to conform to anything. And I thought, well, how do we know if the elephant can walk the tightrope or not? Let's try it. So it's just the way I see things. And I think that we've all got a touch of artist in us, haven't we? And it's the way we express ourselves or the way we dress ourselves,
Correct.
the way the verbiage that we speak, the music that we listen to. It's all an extension of our own artisticness.
Well, this is true. And everybody, wonders, how do you, because some people want to do art at a later time in life, and that's fine. You can do it anytime and you
Yes.
want. It's just honing that skill. If you
Yeah.
really like something, you'll continue to do it. And like you say, if you like music, and music is just is important as art. I wish I could have done both.
Hmm.
And I love it. I have a keyboard that I drive my husband with crazy. It's like, but thank goodness we have a room. He can go in another room. And I don't like the discipline of learning how to play the piano,
Hmm.
but I love to just see if I can make a tune without figuring out anything. Because I really always wanted to play the piano, and I tried, but it's like, forget it. You either going to work on your art, or you might as well just enjoy pounding on the thing just for fun, and then going.
It's a different extension of your paintbrush. That's all. Your art is coming out on your fingertips on the keyboard, and
Yeah,
it's
I'm just
just
having
channeling
fun.
something different. Exactly. Right. Again, no conforming, just expressing.
Yes, but thank goodness he can go out of the room and say, okay, go have fun, leave me alone.
I remember it reminds me of a teenager. I bought a melodica, which is, like the keyboard thing that you blow through.
Yeah.
And I was learning to play it, and my dog used to put her paws over her ears like this. But I mean, I absolutely love music and I love interviewing musicians for that reason. But I've not been able to play it. It's not my expressive, but I speak in flow, I write in flow. My fluidity and my musicality comes out in other ways. But your artistry will always come out in other ways, will always be exposed in other ways because you are the artist. And everything else that you do is seen through the artist's eye, and you can't change that. That is who you are. Just like a musician is at one with his guitar or at
Yeah.
one with their voice, you know that they're not singing it, they're singing it, they are it. When they're playing it, they are the instrument. So everything else that you're going to do is you are the paintbrush, and everything else you're going to do is going to be your artistry that comes out through it.
Well, you're probably right. And I think a musician gets lost in his
Hmm.
work, just like an artist gets lost in their work. My most exciting part is when I get to the actual, after I've sketched it and done all that and done my underpainting or whatever. I can't wait to get to the final.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I like just get lost in it, and that's when I'm happiest, because I've
Yes.
actually made it. This is like doing that hospital painting. I finally, after a month, finished it, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes. My brother is an author, a professional author, and he does the writing by hand first, in a coffee shop somewhere with coffee and a
Mhm.
pan of raison and writes, and then he goes and has the discipline of then, transferring it to the computer and then all the editing and everything else that comes with it. And it's and he gets lost in it. And it's I always say that like his books are the truth of who he is, but who he's denying himself to be in real life. And you meet a musician or you meet an artist, and very often they can't really articulate themselves in kind of what we proverbially call the normal way, because it's a different language, it's a different mindset. They can talk to another artist because they understand each other, but can't necessarily. This is why a lot of people who are artists or musicians or authors aren't very good at promoting themselves, because they don't know how to express in words or out to everybody else exactly what it is they've done, because they've lost themselves in it, and there's the result. That speaks for itself, and they don't really know how to speak to it themselves other than there's the evidence.
Well, and it's so personal because
Yes,
you really thought about it, and it's so personal. Like my husband is very good at what he does, but he's not very good at promoting himself. And I said,
right.
well, we are going to work on that, but I'm the one that does all this promoting because I was in sales. I have this background.
Hmm.
So that helps, but then I do get stuck in certain things because I am that artist. There I am.
Yeah.
I'm at that point where I like, okay, now how do I do this next? And just meeting you was a big deal to me because we seem to
Bless
have
you.
clicked,
Hmm.
and you were so expressive, and so you're really helping me because I really need that part of uh my art experience to go to whatever level it needs to go. And
Yeah.
you can't always find people that you can work with that can help you because you're lovely. You're just lovely.
Oh, bless you. Bless you. So kind. I'm a huge advocate of just be yourself. Everybody else is taken. And if I always say that we're all looking for our particular instrument in life. What is our gift? How do we use it? How do we perfect it? Whom do we play it for? And then which orchestra do we join in order to transcend what we have done together? And it isn't, um, I've never been one to kind of learn the conventional way, or everything I've learned is just through immersing myself into it. I may do a tutorial on which button do I press, you know, and then it is like, okay, work it out from there. Because if for me, it is about, I need to be um, connected to it. I need to feel the vibration. I need to understand the flow and the fluidity of it. And I think this is why I'm drawn to people who are very artistic, because you understand that it's not just a painting in a frame. It is a story that comes out of the frame and that can immerse with your own life story or change your own life story and carry it forward with everything else. And that's the important thing in life, is that stop boxing yourself in, stop limiting yourself, stop saying, I can only do this here, I can only do that there. Allow yourself to be who you are and the gift that you were given, and follow that train, follow that flow, and let it take you to where you need to go. And all these people that are along the way that say, you should do it this way, you should do it that way, you got to do it this way. It works for them in what they're doing. But if it doesn't feel right to you at the core, if it doesn't feel right to you at the core, don't do it. Listen to your heart, soul, your gut, your intuition, and follow that. That's the reason you got that beautiful painting, because you immersed yourself. You gave the essence of yourself there. Allow your essence to also take you in that direction where other people will see you and feel you.
Well, you're very kind. It is true. I mean, when we travel or go, I mean, even just through my yard, if I see my husband took a picture of the dogwood flower. Well, I said, okay, well, take this picture. I'm going to just do one flower, like Georgia
Mm-hmm.
O'Keeffe does one flower. But I did it in my own perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can just be inspired by one flower.
Exactly.
It doesn't,
Exactly.
doesn't,
It's a
it doesn't have to.
life that is in bloom, that is there for our senses. So you're capturing that sense of what it is, right? Letting people pause for a moment to look
Yeah.
at it and feel the joy from it. And that's a gift that you are now sharing with everyone else.
Well, I try, and that's the thing. It's just, I try to paint as much as I can, and uh, but I'm working on a commission now for someone that needs horses in a beautiful clouds and all that, and it's going to be a challenge, but I don't care. I'll figure it out. And if I don't like it, I'll do another one. I'll basically work it out. I want her to be happy with it. So,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to find out what she specifically wants. It's not going to be perfect, but she's giving me the freedom to say, well, use your artistic
Yes.
creativity to decide how you want to perceive it. So I'm
So
I'm
when you're
glad.
doing things like horses, where you're more used to landscapes, and suddenly you've got the horse in motion, is it, I would imagine that very much your lighting experience, the way it can reflect on the muscles of the horse,
Oh,
the
definitely.
horse in motion, that it's not just a, blank horse. When you catch that
No.
horse in motion, when you look at a picture of a horse in motion, with the way the light reflects on certain muscular and shapes and styles, and then I imagine that actually is quite exciting to paint.
Well, it is. It's also very difficult because it could
Yes.
it could take about 10 or 12 different shades of that burnt
Yeah.
sienna or ochre to get what you want. It's
Mhm.
not easy, but you keep working at it, and if
Yep.
you don't get it right, then you keep, because I usually start with a sketch first, and the sketch doesn't have to be perfect, but that helps me to
It's the
uh,
template to
the
which to build
template.
from.
You've got
Yeah.
to have a sketch. A
Hmm.
lot of artists or teachers that I've heard through other people have said, well, you don't need to sketch. Well, I believe you do. I think you have to in order to have a basis. It's just like centering clay, because I do pottery on the side, but it's
Hmm.
not my main thing. And if you don't center that piece, it's going to go everywhere. So
Right.
you really have to have, like you say, a template, a place to start. And it's sort of like a foundation, like anything. You have to have a foundation and then build on it. And so
Mm.
whatever you do, it's a building of stages, and I've worked out the way for my paints to dry quicker, because a lot of people say, well, I don't like oils because they take so long. Well, if you put on gobs of paint that are huge, yeah, it's going to take you forever. But the way I do it, I've just worked out a situation where I can do a painting, in a couple weeks and have it dry. It just depends on what it is. If it's really complicated, then it's going to take a lot longer.
Hmm.
So it's working with your medium and getting it to hone it the way you want. And it takes years. I mean, it's like I say, it's only taken 50 years.
But you know what? I mean, I started podcasting. I'm in my 10th year of my own network right now. I've been doing it for just over 11 years. Um, when I started podcasting, I didn't know it was going to be my platform. I didn't know that everything else that I'd been through in life was leading me up to this. I had no idea what I was doing. I pressed all the wrong buttons. It was live. I was on another network for 13 months. It was a great training ground. And then when I started my own network, I still didn't know, because there was nobody else out there really doing it. And so it was trial and tribulation. But when you find out what is your why behind it, why are you doing it? Are you compelled to do it? Are you committed to doing it? Even though you don't know what you're doing, you will discover how to do it, right? If the
This is
drive
true.
is enough, you'll discover the skills and the tools of what you need in order to make it happen. But where's that drive coming from? Because if you don't have the drive, you're not going to give it the persistence.
No, that's absolutely true. You have to have that drive, and that's why I always try to have maybe some pictures in the background that I
Yeah,
can do later. They may not be, the ones that I prioritize right now, but there's always something that is, oh, well, let me put this for later. I will do this at a later time, or sketch it at a later time, and if I don't like it, then fine. But it may give me just that one aspect might give me like you say, that horse might just give me the color I need for the next horse I do. I don't
right.
do that many of them. They're very complicated.
Yes,
And I don't do them often. I'm only doing this for a friend with the challenge that I'm going to make it happen.
right. Exactly. Yeah, my brother is an author, and I've just written my kind of somewhat memoir. And it is like, you write it, you edit it a couple of times, then you sit and you leave it. Forget about it, come back, revisit it from totally different, fresh eyes. And I think
Right.
that's, with art, it's the same thing. You may have the vision in your head and you're putting that down on paper, on canvas, and then walk away from it, go and do something else. But when you come back, suddenly, it needs this, or I should
Yes,
do that. And that's where the picture then is speaking to you on what else it needs. But you don't always see it if you're just going linear day after day to complete it. You need
exactly.
to allow it to have it to settle in and then come back to you and say, I need this a little more.
Well, and it's true. And you have your room that you're set up in,
Yeah.
and I'm very blessed that I have a room that I can leave my art set up and I
Yeah.
can go to it. A lot of people don't have that.
Hmm.
And when I first started, I didn't have that. I used to have a little place that I would just, have to put things away and put them back, and that got to be a hassle. But when you have your own room that you can go to, it makes a difference. That you don't have to worry about all those other things you have to do to set
Yes.
up. It's there. My
Right.
easel's there, the light is there. All I have to do is mix the colors, and then I'm off and running. And that's a blessing, but it took years to get to that point.
Exactly. I mean, going back to your orphanage days, it's the tumultuousness that you had with, step mums and your father and just brothers and everything else. It's all written down here on her blog, folks. I invite you to come and read it. But some people give up and give in. They stay the victim in life. And as I said, we don't have to enjoy the experience, but it's who we become because of the experience is where the reward is, if you're willing to go through the experience. And that sense of survival, like or in an orphanage, everybody wants to be seen, everyone wants to be heard, everybody's looking for that hug, you're looking for that sense of belonging. And for some people it could be something they search for the rest of their lives. And in some ways you were as an adult. That's why I'm your first husband, we've got this in common, so you must be okay. Right. And then
Right.
you took that time in between before meeting your second husband, where your own house, you bought your own boat, you did your own artistry. Yes, you tried different type of careers, but you were doing it for you. And I think, good lesson to be learned here, apart from your artistry, is the fact that you, despite your upbringing, and the rockiness of it, took the time to invest in you and what you wanted and who you were and the joys that brought things to you. And that is what brought your husband, now husband, to you, because this is your vibration, this is your frequency, this is what you want. And that's where he picked you up on it. And this is when you do your art, you're doing it for you because you enjoy it. And through your pleasure of doing it, it becomes pleasurable for other people. But you took that time for you. And that is a huge lesson, I think, for anybody listening today, is don't rush into another relationship. Don't rush into something else. Be willing to take a dozen different jobs. There's always something you learn from each one of them
Right.
that then ends up in the end going, that was the reason why I did that job. This tool or this system or this program I can use here. But you were always willing to explore. And I think that's been marvelous and a wonderful example for people.
Well, and it's easy to be a victim because I
Yes.
was for a while. I was a victim and I was very needy because I hadn't learned
Mm.
how to become my own. And I do have to back up a little because uh, what I have to correct, and it's quite all right because you don't know me very well, but I really didn't get into the orphanage. I
Oh,
was basically in an adopted home, and it was only to prevent me from going into an orphanage.
okay.
But that adopted home was not a very loving one. It was
Mm.
it was a very I had all my needs met. I was taken care of. I was basically clothed and
But you're in a holding pattern.
I was in a holding pattern and
Yes.
not in a very loving,
Yeah.
enduring pattern. It was definitely to prevent me to go into an orphanage.
Hmm.
So I do want to correct that because I want people to think, well, she's just, because that's what I'm saying. You're perfectly correct in assuming that because you don't know me, but it was one of those things where I'm now a better person because I've been through all that.
Yes.
And I am a survivor. I'm not a victim, but it took a long time and a lot of effort to correct that. And it's taken a lifetime. I mean, I
Exactly.
read many self-help books, many people that tried to help. And I still have some PTSD from things,
Hmm.
but it's okay. Somehow my husband puts up with me. I don't know.
But I think who doesn't? I mean, in writing my story, my daughter, we were all together this last weekend, and she goes, "Mom, I've read your memoir because I'm in the process of editing," and she goes, you're far too nice to dad. And I go, well, he is your father, and it is 23 years ago, and I've moved on. She said, but Mum, I know the scars. I know what he did to you. And I think you need to be more open and honest about it. And I thought, oh, that's interesting coming, from the kid, because you kind of want to filter a little bit because of the kids, right? And there the kids are
Right.
actually saying, no, don't gloss over it. Share some of the things that were done. And I thought, okay, maybe there will be a sentence or two in there. And yes, there are the scars. There will always be the scars. But
Yes.
that doesn't mean I walk around with my scars up front. They're
No.
there. There are certain triggers. There are certain things that will always be a little for me. But you put your best foot forward, don't you? And it's like, this has been done to me. Change it being done for you. And who am I now because of it? And
Mm.
take the good out of it and leave the bad. You've been there,
Right.
you've done that. Don't keep carrying it with you.
No, it is a tragedy. I have known some people that continue to just
Mm,
live with the
yes.
bad, and I cannot be around people like that.
No,
I
no.
definitely have to go with positive
Yeah,
people, and even the people that, were close to me that have become so negative, I can't be around them.
yeah,
So, and it's amazing that your daughter can
yes,
talk to you and say that. That's quite something. I mean, you
yes.
must have a very good relationship with her, and I'm very glad that you do. That's a blessing.
I worked on it. And when it came to the separation and the divorce, I said, your relationship, actually, it was my kids that told me to divorce for a
Mhm.
start. And
Oh
then
my
when it came to it, I said, your relationship with your father is entirely yours. This has got nothing to do with me anymore. Right? Um, and he and I were friends for a while because that's the way I wanted it. And then it turned sour with the friendship because somebody else came into my life. So that was different. But we walked our daughter down the aisle together. We are together for 2 or 3 functions a year where grandchildren or getting all the kids together or some celebration. And I'm very happy that I did divorce him. I wouldn't be
Yeah,
alive, I don't think, if I hadn't. But there was no need to carry the animosity. The scars are there, they're evident. um, they always will be there. But I think also what we have to understand when any relationship that goes wrong, I know I handed my husband the boots because I didn't think enough of me. I didn't have enough self-value. He put the boots on and kicked me. That's on him. But because I became the victim, part of it was the journey and being there. He treated me like it. And in actual fact, when I asked for a divorce, he said, I've lost the control I had over you. Right.
yeah.
And so when it comes about control, no, I've cut the strings. I'm taking control of who I am and why I am. And I'm going to decide what I carry forward with me. And yes, you have flashbacks. Yes, you have moments that come up, right? But you look at them and you kind of hug yourself in that moment and then you go, and goodbye. I'm no longer there. So
Right.
I don't need to carry it forward with me. And I think that's something really, really important. And I think people who are into art or are into that expression beyond, um, just surviving life, I think the healing is much better and much deeper because the art is the extension of your inner love and
Right.
even the extension of the pain that you've been through or the healing that you're going through. And I think that it's kind of you on a canvas, isn't it?
It is. Everything that I do is me. I mean,
Mm.
it comes from the heart
Yeah.
and from all the years. But what I see is somehow I have a gift that I have to use. And I
Yes.
feel like if I don't use it, it's not, doesn't help me not to use it.
Yeah.
And there's times when I get away from it and I go, okay, you're starting that old, you've got to get back to it because that's where you're that's your happy place.
Exactly. And the joy of passing that happiness on. The happiest place you are is when you're doing your painting and when somebody buys your painting and it's hanging on someone's wall, making them happy. I mean, what a wonderful feeling. What a wonderful feeling. You're sharing that happiness out with other people.
Well, and if they love it, then that's the validation that you really need. It's kind of just validating that you are uh you've got something to leave as a legacy too, because to me
Yes.
it's what it is. I
Yeah.
don't have children to leave as a legacy.
Right.
I'm
But you
not
know
going to
that.
cut off my ear.
Yeah, right. Please don't do that. So, yeah, the thing is, it's like a book that keeps on giving. Some people will reread a book, or somebody else will read a book and get a different interpretation of it. It's the story that keeps on giving. That's why certain movies never ever lose their time. 50 years later, we're still watching certain things because of, the way the next generation it's going to feel with it. Art is the same. Art is one of those few things that can be a few hundred years old and gain more value, right? And then that's the beauty of it. But it's the dedication, it's the commitment, it's the love, it's the passion, it's the heart and the soul that goes into a painting. And that is what you're buying. Yes, it's a beautiful visual, but when you look at it, it isn't just the visual. It's all the emotions that gone into that painting that you're looking at that sparks the emotion of love and hope within you.
Well, and I'm glad that you have your podcast, because it's very similar. And like you said,
Mm,
the music, it's all very similar. It's just like you say, everything's a different art. It
yes.
may not be an art as far as a painting, but it's
Mm,
still an art.
yes.
It's
And,
still an
and
art.
we've just got to make that discovery, that self-discovery of what is our art, what is our expression, what is our gift, what is our purpose. We've all been given something, every
Yeah,
single one of us. What is it? Perfect it to the best as you can, but we have to realize every single thing we do and every reason why we're here is to serve one another,
this is true.
right?
This is true.
If you
And we
kept all your art to yourself, it will be self-serving. The fact that you give your art away and that you're willing to sell it, it means that you're willing to share the love and the passion of
Yes.
it.
And it's hard, but I do, and I'd like to
Mm.
sell more because I want people to enjoy it. And it helps me. As far as art goes, it's there's tons and tons of artists out there. It's just whoever wants to feel with that particular artist if they have a connection. And
Mhm.
that's what I'm trying to do, is get more connections for people that really appreciate the art and what um like I say, where I've come from, it saved my life. And I think
Yes.
if more people have this, there's so many problems out there in the world right now. We certainly, and you've done podcasts on mental health. I mean, a lot of
Oh,
it
lots
is
of them.
mental health. And if we don't have things to fall into that we can, I don't know the proper words to use to channel the good, we have to think of the good, because there's so much negative out there. We
And
really
that
have to.
again, I remember, what you seed, what you water, what you nurture will grow. If you get weeds, that's what you've seeded.
This is right.
And it's like, you want to seed the hope, you want to seed the joy, you want to seed the love. It doesn't have to have a visual of it's got to look like this. Just
Right.
seed the hope and the love and the visual and allow it to grow. Recognize it for what it is, because we're all in searching for something that is meaningful to us, that gives us that joy, that gives us that connection, that ignites that love, heart, soul, and spirit in us. And when we
Mhm.
find it, and then when we share it, it is the reason why you're here. So
That's
that's
right.
the reason why you're here is, or the whole journey is your art, and your art to express out as a gift to anybody who buys it, but also the fact that you will do pieces that people can commission, and not portraits or anything else like this, but you know, a lot of people will look at, I just would love to give a unique gift to someone, but I have no idea what.
Right.
And a painting that keeps on giving, that somebody looks at it years and years down, that's beautiful. Who did that? You know, Kathy did that, and it was gifted by so and so, and it brings back wonderful memories, right? I mean, that's a gift that keeps on giving. So when you do commission work, landscapes, horses, obviously, but is there a particular style of commission work that you do?
Not really. I like to do pet portraits for people,
Oh, wonderful.
because pets are they're just so unconditional and so loving. I prefer
Yes,
those.
yes.
Wildlife, landscapes, seascapes. You know, of course, I like people to buy my regular art, but
Mm,
commissions are like small things. Like pet portraits are pretty, let's just say, a little easier for me to do if I, but I have to have a picture that is the right frame and the right setting for me to do. But you know, it's like if someone has a specific place that they've been that they would like something, then they would want to contact me and say, well, can you do this? And if there's something I can't do, I'm going to tell them, because
right,
I'm not
exactly.
going to give somebody, I'm going to let them know that this is not something I'm going to tackle.
Hmm.
Uh, but you know, most I've done boats, I've done all that. Like I say, the horses are something that I don't do that much of. I'm just doing this for a friend right
Right.
now. But I've done donkeys. I've done a beautiful cow from Normandy that's on my website that my husband took a picture of when we were in France. And this cow was just sitting there, and he was just, it was a she, just be like, Rudy, take a picture of that. When I get home, I'm going to paint it. And it came out beautiful because I remember the vision of that
Mm-hmm.
horse sitting there chomping on a piece of grass, you know, and it was just, but I just, I could feel it and see it
Yeah.
while I was painting it. And it was like I was there again, you know, so I don't get to travel that much anymore. But it's kind of like if somebody wants a commission of something, just contact me and I'll discuss it with you. And certainly, you know, we can work something else, the size and where you want it and you know, how to frame it and that kind of thing. So, you know, I work with people and I even give them lighting tips. If they want lighting tips, I'll give them
Yes.
lighting.
Yes. Yes, because you want it, put on a wall where it's really going to get the right lighting so it really can stand out. Pets, I mean, it's coming up to 7 years since I lost my border collie, and I think of her every day, and I have a picture of her on my computer here that I look at every day. I mean, this was an animal that knew my soul and knew my heart,
Oh,
and that's I think this your children you'll always be attached to, but they're individuals and they're individual thinkers pursuing their own life. An
yeah,
animal gives themselves to you 100%.
that's
And
right.
they are just so utterly endearing. So I can see portraits of your animal that you have now or that you've lost always being there would be absolutely beautiful.
Yes, it is. And wildlife. I
Yes.
love doing wildlife because, you know, we are losing so many birds and so many
Uh-huh.
species that it's really sad. I mean, you know, I don't know who doesn't believe in climate change right now, but there's so
A
many
few
things.
idiots. I'm gonna call
But I mean, you know,
it.
well, even planes are killing them just going into the engines, you know. And it's like we have a lot of birds in our yard, and we live close to a nature center, so there's deer and raccoon, and we even had a big, huge heron that went in our yard, and I painted a picture of him, and he's on my website.
Mhm.
And it's just, you know, so it's basically whatever uh, floats my boat. You know,
Yes.
I will paint, and if I can't paint it, I'll tell you
Right.
because I'm not going to do something and be unfair to someone. You know, I just don't do people. I don't do
Right.
people. They're not unconditional like pets.
Exactly. I agree. I agree. Unless the children, before
Yes,
they've been contaminated,
yeah, to be
yeah, and then their
before
beautiful expression. Yeah.
yeah, they're so innocent. You know.
Yes, exactly. And they are what they are. I have a 2-year-old grandson and a 5-week-old um, other grandson, and it's just they're just beautiful bundles of soul and heart,
Oh,
before
they are.
before the restrictions come in, which is but yeah, um, you also have these little cards that you do, which is like
Yes.
just the one flower. So let's talk about those because
Okay.
that's something else that people would love to do is kind of give a card, a birthday card, or a greeting card, or how you feeling card, and you want something special. So let's get the lighting in there a little bit. We will have these on her show page. So they're all of beautiful flowers, the lovely colors, are really warm, and just something that it's something that when you give them to people, they can get a whole series of them and frame them.
Yes.
You know how you see like 4 or 5 pictures in a group framed,
Mhm.
but they're all of the flowers. I think that's wonderful. So how do people get hold of those? What are you offering with those?
Well, there's a set of four with envelopes, and they're $20 US, and I can ship them to them. And, shipping might be a little extra because it takes a little bit to send them.
Mm.
But they're of my images. Most of my images I can do. Uh, the Some of them, if they're not the right aspect ratio, which is usually 5:7, um, you know, I would be able to tell them most of my paintings I can do in 5:7, but if they're not, then they might be a little bigger. But the note cards are something that I offer, and I also do canvas prints and
Mm.
metal prints out of my work, and they can contact me for that, and I can do good prices on those through me instead of my website, which is fine. But I also have that. So sometimes you don't want an original, or maybe can't afford an original. Those are another way that I can offer my art, and so people can still afford it, that type of thing.
Exactly. And it's something personable. I mean, you go in and you buy a birthday card or a card of just a greeting or something, and you're paying $7 or $8, $9 for it,
Yeah,
right? And so here you get a pack of 4 for 20, which is excellent. And it's kind of giving something that's really heartwarming and personal, and something that people want to keep,
right.
because it's like not just a generic card. It's something that it's from the artist, and it feels more important. I think it says more. And so, people do want to kind of stand out and send something that is more meaningful and more personable, because it's letting know that person that you really care.
Right. If they just say, someone's sick and they want something special, this artist did this, and I signed the back of them
Mm,
so they can have that. And just know that, this came from an artist. It's a print, but, like I say, it's at least something that helps me continue my art, and helps me buy all the things I need to make these
yes,
with. I
exactly. People
seal them all.
forget, for you to do your art, it costs money. Canvas, paint, frames,
Yes.
time,
Well,
expertise, all of that, and
all the envelopes, all the printing,
exactly.
everything adds up. Everything adds
Everything adds up, so it should be appreciated. In fact, I have a show out this last week on,
up.
are you being paid enough? Are you being appreciated? Are you being seen and heard? Because we have got to a society now where we're taking too much for granted from people, and
Right.
just kind of expect because it's online, we shouldn't pay for it. Um, as Misty, who is also on, who introduced us, is on this week on sales, is that we go into a grocery store and we pay the price that we see. We may
Right.
grumble about it, but we pay the price. So why do we have a problem in paying the price with other people just because they're more artistic or offering
Yeah.
something that is a little different? So let's show appreciation, folks, appreciation for what has been done. And you can get hold of Kathy at her site, Kathy, Kathy dash Knopp, but it's spelled with Knopp, pixels.com. So that's Kathy Knopp, pixels.com. And she's on Twitter, um, Knopp, and she's on Facebook, Artsy Time. She's on LinkedIn, Kathy Knopp. She's on Alignable. She's on Instagram. I think I said that, Kathy Knopp. And you can also see the WellStar patient, shows her art there. And you're also a member of the AC Worth Art Alliance.com and the Booth Artists Guild. You're also on Pinterest. And so I hope I've covered everything here. So if people want to get hold of you directly, do they email you or do they go through your site?
Well, they probably could email me at allpaulsunique@gmail.com. That might be the easiest way. That way I can have direct contact with them, and that way I can get back to them quickly. I mean, they
Right.
can certainly get on my website or Instagram, or they can direct message me on any of those, like on Facebook or Instagram or anything, but the allpausunique@gmail.com might be the best.
Right. Exactly. Where we may only be coming up into July, but this is wedding time, right?
Yeah.
This is even a lot of people start buying for Christmas, so that it's not all at once. Or that you want to commission something for somebody's anniversary, 30th anniversary, 40th anniversary, or somebody's come out of hospital and you want to give them something, that kind of something to look forward to, something of appreciation. Art is a beautiful gift to give. It really is. It kind of comes from the heart when it's painted, but it also comes from the heart when it's given, and it's received from the heart when it is received because of all the heart that's been involved in here. So I think art is something that a gift that keeps on giving, absolutely. And if you are looking at our YouTube right now, not just listening, you see there's a few paintings behind there. There's the one with the bridge, which is directly behind her head. And then she's got one of a yacht down there on the other side of things. Move that way, love. Move that way.
Okay, okay.
And there's a flower down there. And I know I saw, was it a boat? Did I see somewhere?
Well, I don't know if you saw a boat or not.
Okay,
But anyways, they're all on my website.
right.
And let's see. I guess, hold on, I can see. Well, I don't want to mess you up here. I don't have them all in front
Yeah.
of me.
No, you're going to have to go to the site to look at them and
Yeah.
see for yourself. And, you can see by my logo, trees mean a great deal to me because, they are what would we be without trees? They are our oxygen. They are our life. They are our vibration. They are so wise, and they speak to each other and they speak to us. And nature itself is just such a necessary gift. Where would we be without nature? But at the same time, beyond supplying us food and everything else, nature it connects with our heart and soul in such a way that it allows us to be present. It allows our essence to grow. It just allows us to be. So, having some nature on your walls in your on a cold winter day when it's blowing and raining outside, and you can look at a picture and it takes you into that garden or into that field or with those trees. It's something that can transcend you somewhere else, which is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing here today, Kathy.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Sarah. You're wonderful.
Right
Thank you.
back at you, love. Right back at you. I wish I could do the art. I can't, but I love interviewing the artists, the people that have truly been honest and true to their heart, soul, and spirit. And those are the gifts that keep on giving. The gift that lies in each and every one of us if we set it free. And when someone has set it through free and honored the gift that they have and are sharing it out with other people, that's nectar to us all. So thank you for painting. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for being an inspiration.
Well, thank you.
Until next time, folks, what's the gift that lies within you? And are you setting it free? Bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.